Fake news. That's the theme for our reflections this week, as together we unpack the narrative of the Gibeonite deception, the unfolding drama of which we read in Joshua chapter 9. And in our reflections today, we want to think about the fact that there was a disguise. There was a disguise. You see, it's not hard to feel a bit of sympathy for the Gibeonites. When they heard how Jericho and Ai had fallen to the Jews, they knew that they didn't stand a chance. They might well have been pagans, but they knew enough and were clever enough to understand that behind Joshua stood the God of the universe. It was a straightforward calculation for them. Essentially, they were saying, well, the Jews are planning to sweep through the land of Canaan. And here's what's going to happen, guys. When they get to Gibeon, they're going to kill us and burn the city. We're going to go the same way as the inhabitants of Jericho did. We better cut a deal. We better make a deal while the going is good and while we can. But they also knew that Joshua would never make a deal on his own. After all, why would he? After Jericho and Ai, the Jews, the Israelites, were on a roll. They weren't afraid of anyone or anything. There was no way that they would willingly, at least, enter into any kind of a deal with the Gibeonites, their sworn enemies. The Gibeonites were the enemies of the people, the children of Israel. So in this unfolding drama of which we read in Joshua 9, the Gibeonites came up with a brilliant two-part plan. What was that two-part plan? Well, that two-part plan was this: disguise plus flattery. Guaranteed to work every time. Disguise plus flattery. Guaranteed to work every time. Firstly, they pretended to come from some distant land. They put on worn clothes, packed mouldy bread, and carried cracked wineskins to make it look as if, to disguise the fact that they hadn't been traveling for many weeks, but to make it look as if they had been. And this disguise worked better than they could ever have had imagined. Why was that? Well, it was that because of this, because when they got to Gilgal, the children of Israel at first questioned them, but their disguise was so good, they eventually decided that the Gibeonites must be telling the truth. They fell for the disguise. In other words, they fell for fake news. The first part of the brilliant two-part plan, they pretended to come from some distant land. The second part of the plan, they resorted to flattery. Disguise plus flattery. Guaranteed to work every time. And so what did they do? Well, the Gibeonites, as it were laid on thick, poured it on thick with all their grand talk about how God had delivered the Israelites from Egypt and how he had given them victory over the kings east of the Jordan. Now that was clever. That was a clever ploy to give them credit, because it was true and because it appealed to the feel-good factor that the Israelites had. And that ruse should not have worked, but it did. Both Joshua and the leaders were skeptical at first, But the Gibeonites, get this, the Gibeonites snookered them. The Gibeonites snookered them by their disguise. Disguise plus flattery, guaranteed to work every time. And just as it was with Joshua and the Israelites, disguise plus flattery is guaranteed to work with us every time. We need to be discerning and to watch out for those metaphorical Gibeonites who endeavour and try to snooker us. See, the Bible says in 2 Corinthians 11:14 that Satan disguises himself, note the word, disguises himself as an angel of light. He comes to us like a friend. But in the end, he turns out to be a hissing serpent. He tries to slither in, but he's really a hissing serpent. And the story of the Gibeonite deception and the fake news which the Israelites fell for ought to remind us today that things are rarely what they seem to be. It's like talking to an unscrupulous salesman. He's got an answer for everything because he knows all the tricks of persuasion. He knows how to turn your objections to his advantage, and you end up signing on the dotted line. You think you've got a great deal, but only later do you realize you've been tricked by a con man. That's exactly what happened here. The children of Israel fell for the disguise that the Gibeonites, as it were, put on. The children of Israel fell for what was essentially fake news. And tomorrow, in Teaching Truth, we'll look at the ways that fake news manifested itself in the costume, as it were, of deception. Lots we can learn from this drama of the Gibeonite deception. Join me tomorrow as we continue to learn together.